These are NBA players' biggest fears.
This is one of the scariest feelings I've ever had in my life.
And even though Shaquille O'Neal is one of the most feared players in NBA history, he's still scared of something lurking in the water.
There's a shark right next to me. Don't worry about it, Shaq. It's not gonna hurt you. Uh-oh, there he goes. He's going right for you.
Trying to kill me. Shark tried to kill me, America.
You're the biggest thing down there, really. There's not many things down there that are bigger than 7 feet.
Shaq's the biggest thing down there now, but he's been terrified his entire life, especially when he was a kid. No one cared about his fear for sharks. His father would always tell him to get over it, and it may have taken him 50 years, but Shaq was finally ready to overcome his biggest fear. Going out to the middle of the ocean while being surrounded by sharks.
Get my goggles. Go on in. I ain't afraid of no shark.
How's our boy looking down there?
A little nervous, but he's doing good. These reefs are more intense than usual. There's literally a dozen or more, and they're all just frenzied right up against the cage. There's a shark in the cage. I gotta get him out. There's a little shark in the cage.
Shaq got out of that cage faster than he ever moved during his playing days, but being face to face with his biggest fear almost made him give up completely. But one thing about Shaq is that he never gives up, so he was ready to put his life on the line again and get in the water with his fear that has haunted him his entire life.
I want to do this. I want to do this. I will do this. See you later, America. Hope this is not my last time seeing you.
Here she comes, Shaq.
Oh, this. Nope, I'm out. Nope.
I guess Shaq will never overcome his fear, but who isn't afraid of sharks? I mean, most people are. But Damian Lillard has one of the weirdest fears I've ever heard of, because Dame is terrified of statues. It all started his rookie year, when he sent out a tweet revealing the one thing he's afraid of. And not just any statues, it has to be historical statues. I've always been scared of historic stuff like that. If I see statues of Jesus, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., all that stuff kinda gives me a funny feeling. And it all started back in his college days at Weber State. He visited a wax museum and the last room was full of historic figures. The problem for Dame was they were alive so long ago, and to see something that looked just like them freaks him out. But that's only the beginning of things Dame's afraid of, because against the Rockets, he was on fire. He couldn't miss and dropped his career high 71 points.
71 points, a career high.
But what was supposed to be one of the best days of his life turned into one of the worst. The one thing he's more afraid of than statues is needles, and after dropping 71, the NBA decided to give him a random drug test.
What was your reaction when you got drug tested?
I mean, honestly, I was like, are y'all serious? Like, I did the urine test yesterday, and then they backed it up with the blood draw tonight after the game. That's actually my first time in my career being tested after a game. And then aside from that, they know that I'm scared of needles, so.
At least needles is something most people fear. What Dwayne Wade is afraid of is something I've never heard of.
Look at all them birds. Look at all them outside waiting on me to come out. That's why I'm scared of birds.
Yeah, D-Wade is scared of birds, and no one ever knew why, until his teammate finally got it on video.
So I was like, they all flew up and flew back down. They attacked me, dog.
I can't believe this dude got attacked by birds, but I also can't believe that there's another player in the NBA that's terrified of birds.
Biggest fear.
Biggest fear? Birds.
When he was in high school, Trey's friend was attacked by birds in the parking lot, and he's been scared of them ever since. And when fans found out, they made sure to make his life a nightmare, holding up bird signs during the game. Plus, to make it even worse, there are only 2 NBA teams that are named after birds, the Pelicans and the Hawks. And guess what team drafted Trae Young? Now this next NBA player's fear almost killed him.
I immediately got to texting my mom and sister, my dad, just kind of saying like, yo, this could be it. This is one of the scariest feelings I've ever had in my life.
The Jazz were on their way to play against the Grizzlies, and it usually only takes a little over 3 hours to fly there. At first, it was just like any normal flight. NBA players are used to flying, since they have to take at least 42 flights a year just to travel to away games. But this normal flight turned into Donovan Mitchell's worst nightmare.
5 to 10 minutes into the flight, we're flying, and we just heard a boom. The whole plane shook. It felt like something had just like exploded in the back of the plane. Kind of, we were all looking around trying to figure out what was going on, and it didn't sound good.
One of the engines completely stopped working after hitting something, and luckily for everyone on board, the plane was able to make an emergency landing, saving the entire Jazz team. But when they got off the plane, they found out what the plane hit that caused the engine failure, and you'll never guess what it was. The plane hit a bird, and the plane really f***ed it up. Donovan Mitchell definitely wasn't happy, but we know Trae Young and D Wade are celebrating. But an NBA player who wasn't celebrating was Jimmy Butler, because his biggest fear is water.
I can't swim.
I might point at you. I can't swim.
And when he was traded to Minnesota, ESPN wanted him to learn about his new city, so they took a trip on a canoe.
What kind of cruise did Dwayne book us on?
And everything was going perfect until they got back. Jimmy Butler's biggest fear became a reality. Lucky for Jimmy, he's 6'7", so he didn't have to try and swim. But someone who wasn't as lucky was Michael Jordan. Jordan was one of the most feared players in NBA history.
There was teammates whom we were afraid of him, and there was just fear.
Being able to hit any shot and dunk on any defender, it seemed like he wasn't scared of anything. But there was one thing Michael Jordan feared, and that's water. When he was just 7 years old, he lost his best friend to the ocean. The current swept him under, and Jordan grabbed his hand trying to save him, but he had to let go. It was either save himself or die with his childhood friend. The current was so strong that it swallowed him, and he grabbed onto me. I practically had to break his hand. He was going to take me with him. And this was only the beginning of all the trauma that water would cause Mike. When he was 11 years old, he almost drowned again. While he was away from home at a baseball camp, he barely survived because someone reached in and grabbed him from the water with only seconds to spare. And water would still follow him even through college. His girlfriend at the time was caught in a flood and she drowned. So Michael refuses to go swimming and will only go on big boats. That's why his yacht is 230 feet long. At least there's a lot of NBA players that are scared of water, because what Russell Westbrook is afraid of is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. In an interview in 2013, Russell Westbrook was asked if he had any phobias. Yeah, like hair. I don't like that. If there's hair around, I can't handle that. If I find somebody's hair laying on me, I'll lose it. There ain't no hair around at my place, I promise you that. You heard it here first. If you have hair, you aren't allowed at Russ's place. But another NBA player with a weird fear is Kobe Bryant, and what he's afraid of is dog poop.
It's the biggest piece of dog that I have ever heard.
I hate dog. I won't go near it. I'm so pissed when I step in it. I've got 4 dogs, and I just don't do dog doo-doo. I'm a diva when it comes to that. Now, dog poop is one thing, but dolphins is another, because that's exactly what Swaggy P is afraid of.
Dolphin was trying to kill me for some reason.
Back when Nick Young and Iggy Azalea were together, Iggy would reveal one of Nick Young's biggest fears. She tweeted, "Nick is scared of dolphins. A dolphin in Cabo tried to kill him once. I was there. And to be fair, it's true. Now he won't go on the wild dolphin snorkel tour. LOL.
I don't know. I think he was trying to, get at Iggy because he was a little friendly, kissing her and stuff. So yeah, he's trying to take my woman, right?
The Dolphins were really trying to take Nick Young's girl, but at least he got over his fear since he went back to Cabo and gave the Dolphins a second chance, and they're cool now. But what Steph Curry isn't cool with is snakes.
What were you afraid of as a kid?
Snakes.
It must have been a scary time when he was teammates with Kevin Durant. Now, one of the greatest players of all time turned his fear into $242 million. Tim Duncan grew up on the Virgin Islands, which is completely surrounded by water. He spent a lot of his childhood swimming, and his sister was even part of the 1988 Olympics, so his family thought that Tim would follow in the same path and go to the Olympics too. But Hurricane Hugo in 1988 would put an end to Duncan's swimming career.
To this day, Hugo ranks in the top 3 worst hurricanes to hit the United States.
The hurricane destroyed everything, including the pool that Duncan would train in, and the only other place to swim was the ocean. And there was no way he was swimming in there, because the ocean is where his biggest fear lived. So he had to give up swimming, and since he was already 6'9" in high school, it was easy to pick up a basketball, and that led to his 19-year Hall of Fame NBA career. So Tim Duncan can thank a hurricane, and his biggest fear, for making him $242 million. But instead of being afraid of sharks, this big man has a fear that started when he was just a kid. Just like most kids, Anthony Davis is afraid of the dark.
Yeah, I'm afraid of dark.
TV on, bathroom light on, some light has to be on. He said he watched way too many scary movies as a kid, and it messed him up for life. Even though he grew up in Chicago, he wasn't afraid of all the gunshots, just the dark. But what LeBron James is afraid of almost got him killed. When LeBron was first drafted by the Cavs, he was always complaining about the team plane. It was old, it was run down, and he had never been afraid of heights or flying before. But when he had to fly to Houston for All-Star Weekend, he almost died. At first, everything was normal. They were all enjoying the flight, just playing some cards to pass the time. But then the lights started flickering on and off, the plane was shaking, and they even saw smoke coming from the kitchen. Everyone on board thought this was the end. Luckily for LeBron and everyone on board, the plane made it safely to Houston, and they lived to tell the tale. The only good thing was, the Cavaliers finally got a new plane. But this was just NBA players' biggest fears. What you really need to watch is 20 times LeBron James embarrass his opponents. Check it out right now.